Are we masters of our own fate or products of our environment? This is a question I've asked myself a lot recently because when growing up, I feel like my environment has shaped me in who I've become. But in the same way, I've always heard the phrase that we are masters of our fate. And I've also always thought that the person you are today is a collection of the decisions you've made, and only you have the ability to change that. So I do think that it is a bit of both. You can be a master of your own fate while still being a product of your environment, and you can take the good from both. When you're getting influenced by people, external factors, and stuff like that, you can take that external factors as good influences. Like you can choose the right friends because you choose your friends. Obviously, there's the inevitable thing of always hanging around your parents and stuff like that. And if your parents don't instill good qualities in you, then it's a little different because the parent has the unwritten rule that they must give their child the tools to succeed and also give them unconditional love. Now, it doesn't have to be unconditional love in the sense of, oh, they baby you and stuff like that. I mean, they're people too, and they can have faults as well. But I do think that when that trust is broken and that they break that unwritten rule, then it is viable or okay to, in other words, here, let me think of a good way to say it. In other words, give leeway to that child. So, in that way, you're a product of your own environment. But there's also another thing. You can think about a child who grows up with parents who smoke cigarettes. There's the child who doesn't smoke cigarettes because his dad smokes cigarettes and he doesn't like how his dad was as a father. But there's also the child who smokes cigarettes because his father did. So you might be a product of your environment, but you can still change how you react to your environment, if that makes sense. Because your environment is a stimulus to respond to, and you have the ability to change that stimulus, if that makes sense. In the same way, you can grow up fat, and you will be fat because you haven't been taught healthy eating habits. But I have a friend, for example, who lost 100 pounds. He was 315 pounds, and now he's actually lost more than 100 pounds. He's around 195. Those people show that while being a product of your environment, you can still be a master of your own fate. You can will yourself to success no matter what your environment is. Now, it may make the starting point a little bit harder. It may make it more difficult to really get to where you want to go. But in the end, it's only you who can decide what path to take. You can either choose to be a lazy bum who gets by in their 9 to 5 and doesn't like their life, or you can choose to be somebody who, one, follows their dreams and excels at whatever they do, whether that be a doctor, a soccer player, somebody who climbs Mount Everest, somebody who breaks records. You can be somebody even in corporate who excels and makes it to the top ladder. A lot of people think that those who excel and make it to the top ladder sell their souls. And there's a lot of people like that. But there's also people who have just dedicated so much of their time and effort into something that they have willed themselves to success. You can be a master of your own fate. You can choose where you want to be. I can choose to be fit, 8% body fat, have an 8-figure business if I wanted to in 5 years, which that is something that I would ideally want. That's not my true purpose in life. I do think that I would like to be obviously physically fit, but for me, in the money side of things, I want to make something money I love. Now, I'm not going to choose the fastest way to do it. I'd rather do something I like to do, but I will myself to that goal, if that makes sense. You can will yourself to anything. I think the big belief here is that your environment can change you, it can modify you, but you can also change. So both of them have an effect if you think about it. The environment can have a positive and negative effect, but the effect it has on you, you have that ability to make it positive or negative. I think that's something that we need to all understand. You can choose to do anything. Everything is with a choice. Now, there is a little bit of, I think that in very certain scenarios, there's not many, but there's specific scenarios. Well, for example, if, let's just say there's a girl working under a pimp, she can't choose not to do that. And she doesn't choose to engage in those activities. It's actually a very unfortunate scenario. But in the long run, in other things, maybe she chooses, or maybe the pimp gets, I don't know, he gets finally what's coming from him. The cops find out what's going on. That girl can then, even though that trauma with her, which I do think that trauma is very important, and I understand if she chooses not to change, but she can choose to change and understand and learn. There's actually a video that I saw from a girl who, she said, what I learned from all the men I had to sleep with as a prostitute. And genuinely, it was such a life-changing video. Like, just to understand her perspective and for her to still learn from these people was so, it was eye-opening, to be honest. Now, people like that who go through severe trauma don't have to be that, but they can be that. That's the important part. You can still do anything no matter what your environment makes you do. Thank you.